Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to Iron Anchor Cycles. Now I know, as usual, it's been a while since we've done a video, and I think I'm gonna try and stop apologizing for that and just make peace with myself that we're just too busy to be making videos every week like I thought we'd be able to. But I'm gonna try and keep doing this every once in a while, and we've got something interesting. So I know it's been a few months, and I'm not even sure when the last video was, but right now it's June, and I'm actually leaving for Laconia tomorrow or the next day. And I had my lowrider S here up on the lift to do a little bit of spring service to it. I know probably I'm a little late getting to that, but it needed an oil change and a couple little things. But I realized I have had a box filled with parts to go on this bike, some new things that came out over this winter and earlier this spring that I was looking forward to putting on the bike and doing a video on, and just never had the time to make the video, but even work on my own bike. So it's almost 9 o'clock here, PM, and we're done with the customer work for today, and I had to do still sort of a little bit of maintenance work on this bike, so I figured why not just put a couple hours in and put some of these new parts on, because I think some of them are pretty cool, and maybe you haven't seen some of these before. So I'll get into it, and I'll show you what we got. So not a huge amount of stuff, but a couple cool little things. The first of which is 2 new parts from Baker Drivetrain for your transmission. The first of them is perhaps the less functional of the two, but I think kind of maybe the cooler of the two just because of the aesthetics. So this is their cable type transmission side cover. This comes in 2 different fitments. Obviously the cable type is one, and then they make one for hydraulic clutches as well. And it comes in this wrinkle black that you see here, which obviously matches the wrinkle black finish on the Softail really well. It also comes in a gloss black. So if you've got gloss black engine covers like on a bagger, that'll maybe work for you. In terms of function, this is pretty much just a cover. However, it does have some nice little upgraded features that the stock one doesn't have. Number one, perhaps not a feature, more just about build quality. As you can hopefully see from the inside of this, this is a machined piece. So this is billet aluminum, and the stock one obviously is just a cast part. So it'll be stronger, it'll be more precision made. So maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't, but we like billet aluminum and machined pieces here, so that's a nice feature to it. In terms of the other feature, and this one, maybe it matters to you, maybe it doesn't, I think it's awesome, which is right here, you've got a drain plug and it says oil level. So if you're familiar with, I don't know, different kinds of bikes where or think about like a rear differential on a car, you're gonna fill until it starts to come out the hole. So that's what you've got here. Now, obviously you don't need to fill through this hole. You can still fill the transmission through where the dipstick is. But if you go nice and slow and you use a heavyweight transmission oil like we do, so we use Bel-Ray fluids for everything, it's really nice and syrupy and sticks to the gears really well. Not only does it work really well, but also as you pour it in, you'll be able to see it kind of come up to this level without it start pouring out the side like a primary fluid or something like that would. So what you'll be able to do is fill this up and get it exactly at the right level while the bike is standing straight up and down. So one of the things that, just as a person who works in a shop, I find annoying about filling a transmission when we do services is that your fill level is measured when the bike is sitting on its side stand. Now, perhaps that is helpful if you're just checking the fluid level on your bike when it's in the garage, but if you're trying to work on a lift, it's pretty annoying to have to take the bike down and put it on its stand in order to confirm the level and then go back working on the ground and maybe top it off. In this case, this oil level is going to be when the bike is standing straight up and down. So you'll fill your fluid, you'll see it kind of reach this little opening, and then you just stick your plug in and tighten it down, and you know you've got the exact right amount of fluid in your transmission. And not overfilling your transmission on a Harley is very important. Too much oil in the transmission is definitely going to cause problems for you. Not the least of which is you might get it start to blow out the vent that's at the top, but can also cause shifting problems and all those other kinds of things. You need that airspace in there, and you don't want too much oil creating too much drag as those transmission gears go through there. So important to have the right level. This is going to help. Last of which, obviously, is maybe the best part of it, I think, is just aesthetically. I just think it looks awesome. I just really like this sort of, kind of industrial shaped look to it. It's also obviously going to give you whatever clearance is possible, let's just say, between your pipe and your side cover. This is as thin as it could possibly be because there's no extra material on here. So if you do have a clearance issue with your pipe, this will help, hopefully. So that's one piece. The other thing we're doing, and I'll show you the parts as we get to them, figure as long as we're in here doing this, let's do another upgrade. And this one is definitely not about form, but about function entirely, which is Baker, again from Baker, their upgraded transmission throwout bearing kit. So they sell a kit, and I think it's only about $100, comes with an upgraded throwout bearing. That's for your clutch release. And that's gonna have more surface area and be stronger than the stock one. It's gonna come with new ball and ramp assembly, both sides and all 3 balls, plus the gasket, all the stuff you need. And you're gonna get some upgraded internals in here to upgrade your clutch. So hopefully what that's gonna mean is it'll be stronger and more reliable. So I personally haven't had any issues with the clutch on this bike, but that throwout bearing is definitely something in a stock application, or the stock one I should say, that if you've got, if you're riding it hard, or if you've got high horsepower stuff going on, whatever the case may be, probably even in a stock scenario, they definitely can fail. So a little upgrade, a little peace of mind, never a bad thing. So we've got those 2 parts to go in. I'm pretty sure that upgraded throwout bearing kit is new. This definitely is new. I'm not sure when this exactly came out. It was sometime around the beginning of the year, so a couple months ago. So definitely excited to get this on and to show this to you guys. Obviously, for these parts or any of the other ones I'm gonna talk about, if you're interested in buying them or learning more about them, you can check out the links in the description below. We'll have them for sale on our website. That is the Baker stuff. In addition, we've got some more other upgrades that we're gonna do here. And this is stuff that, again, we've been waiting for, but sort of just finally came out this year. All the rest of the parts are gonna be from Thrashin. We've got their upgraded brake pedal assembly, along with their upgraded adjustable brake linkage to be able to move that brake pedal up and down. This bike does already have an adjustable linkage on it. I'll show you that linkage when I take it off. I don't like it, and I'll show you why. I think Thrashin's is gonna be the ticket. I'll give you a little side-by-side comparison, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That was the impetus to do the upgrade, was to do this Thrashin stuff, was because I wanted that brake pedal on here. We've already got their foot pegs in the front and in the rear. Just kind of thought it'd be nice to have everything match, and then obviously just have a better brake lever on there as well. And just because we're here doing it, decided just to go ahead and replace the shifter arm on the other side along with the matching shifter tip as well. Obviously not a lot of function there to that, just wanted to match both left and right side and just kind of have a little something new, refresh for the spring. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. Hopefully you find some interest in that. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this taken apart. The keen observer here will notice that my side cover is already off and my transmission is already drained. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this brake assembly removed, get the pipe out of the way, and then we'll start here with the clutch side cover first, and then I guess we'll work our way forward. So stick around. All right, so with the footrest and brake pedal assembly, along with the pipe out of the way, obviously we've got nice, good access to transmission side cover here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off, and before I do that, just to make my life a little bit easier, I'm just going to break loose the clutch cable here. So obviously we're gonna have to disconnect this, and it won't happen while it's connected. It's just a little easier if it's a little tight, just to pop it loose. And mine wasn't bad, it was just nice and snug, so didn't really need to do that, but if you've got an OE cable in there that hasn't been out in a while, it might be a little tight. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just make sure all of these are free and not galled up or anything like that before I go ahead and put an impact on them. And now, go ahead and remove this cover. Now, even with the transmission drained, this is still gonna make a mess here, so just gonna be ready with a rag to be able to kind of do what we got to do. Hopefully I'll be able to move the camera back in so you can see what I'm doing here before it starts to make a mess everywhere, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So normally that'll be stuck in place with the gasket and you kind of have to hit it. In my case, obviously it just fell right off. So just look out for that. So not too much of a mess. Obviously, like I said, we've got fluid dripping here and then fluid dripping from both sides. And we got our gasket in here. So what I want to do is try and get this gasket out of the way. Like that. Just toss that over there. And we can start to get this side disassembled so I can put it down. So the first thing that we've got to do is come in here and remove the snap ring that holds the ball and ramp assembly in place. All right, so we got that. And now, I'm sorry if you can't see this. Pull the top half of the ramps off. Disconnect that from the clutch cable, like that. Now we can pull the bottom half out along with the balls, the balls. I'm making a mess here on the workbench. I'm just gonna wipe it off when I'm done, I guess. And now that that's done, we can freely remove the clutch cable from the transmission cover. Got one more piece in here. The adapter that goes from the cable into the ramp assembly. So now we got that clutch cable undone. Okay, and we are free. So we've got one more piece little here. I don't use a knife to take out an O-ring that you're going to try and save, but I've got a replacement, so not worried about it. You got that O-ring there. Sometimes it'll come off with the cable, sometimes it'll come off with the housing, just like that. And this guy can get washed off and put on the shelf in case we need it for later. But now what we're gonna do is start to look at the replacement parts we've got, some of which is gonna replace these pieces over here. And then most importantly, we've got the upgraded pieces to go here, which is gonna replace most of this. So let me put this away, come right back with those new parts. I'll show you what we've got and we'll get it all installed. All right, ready to start getting our new throw-out bearing parts installed. So show you what we have here. Hopefully you can see what's in this bag. So we've got 2 thrust washers. We've got a brass wash spacer washer, a little guy down in there. We've got 2 C-clips and we've got 1 needle bearing, throw-out bearing here. So that's one piece. We also have a new right side push rod. We've got in this bag our inner and outer ramp assemblies along with a new snap ring and then 3 new ball bearings. So you can kind of look at this as 2 different pieces. You've got this side that's going to go on the cover, so we'll do that second. And then we've got these pieces that are going to replace all of this here. Now, it's funny, they talk about disassembling all of this in the instructions for this, but they don't mention in the instructions that they actually give you a new push rod, which is here. So you actually don't need to take this apart, at least from what I can tell. All of this stuff, they give you enough parts to just put it all together without taking this one apart. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. So I can actually show you the diagram. So here's what you're gonna get from Baker, and you can see here, it doesn't reference this shaft here with a part number, but it did come in the kit. So we've got our thrust washers here, the C-clip, or the clip, spacer, bearing, and then all the other parts there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get all this installed according to this diagram, and then we'll see how it goes together. Worth noting, they do point out that even if you were to reuse the old shaft here, the oil slinger is not used in this new application. So presumably they've determined that there's some benefit to not including that. So that'll be interesting to see. Okay, so I've got our new push rod assembled here. Now if we compare it to the old one, hopefully it jumps right out at you immediately how much bigger and how much more surface area there is on this one than on the old one. So that right there is probably most of what the benefit is about in doing this. So I'm gonna put this one aside for the moment, and we'll just take a look at this. And basically all we did here was you've got obviously the two big washers on the outside, the bearing on the inside, and that little brass spacer is just there to center this bearing on the shaft here. And then you just put the C-clip in place and it holds it all together. We use assembly lube to pre-lubricate all of this. Second C-clip that came with it, just a spare, which is nice. So this guy is going to live right there. And now we can move on to doing the other side. So try and wipe my hands off a little bit and figure out what I did with that cover. All right, so we've got our side cover and new parts ready to go on here. Installation on these should be pretty straightforward. So first thing we're gonna do is get the cable put back in. So I've got our O-ring on here with some assembly lube on it to get it to seat down nicely. I'm gonna feed the cable through and hopefully just get it started on here. So you definitely do not want to cross-thread this. Okay, there we go. Okay. Snugged for the moment, and then we can give it its final kind of torque down once we get it in place, although that's actually pretty good. So now that the cable is on, we got our end in here ready to go. So before we start getting that top piece connected, we've got our bottom ramp with the balls. I pre-assembled this with some assembly grease, both in the pockets to hold the balls in place, and then on the balls a little bit to pre-lubricate them. So we're gonna drop that down in here. Okay, we've got that seated. Go ahead and attach the adapter onto the cable. Then go ahead and get the ramp put on here. There we go. All right, made that harder than it had to be. All right, sorry, wasn't even on camera, so hopefully you can see it down there in the bottom of the screen. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. All right, so we got our cable connected onto our adapter, onto the top ramp, and we're just gonna drop that down in place. It's a much tighter fit in here than in the original, which is probably a good thing once everything is said and done. We've got our pieces in place. You can kind of hear that sit down. And now I'm gonna get our snap ring in. Okay, and you wanna make sure that's seated. And in my case, it's not. So sometimes you can just pop it. There we go. Nope, still not seated entirely. This is why it's important to check these. There we go. Now it's seated, both sides, all the way around. And we've got our, everything seated down nicely. And I'm actually just noticing now too, this is cool. There's this counter bore inside of here that's gonna match up with the push rod here. So that's nice. So no chance of this kind of coming undone or whatever. My guess is that this is gonna sit right down in here, even without it being, the lever being depressed. So let's make sure we've got our surfaces free of any oil. Okay. And you know what? Just for the extra mile, I mean, this stuff is probably fine, this little black remnants on here. But I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe it off. There we go. Now we're sitting pretty. Okay, so we've got new hardware. So one thing I will call out, the description of this when we ordered the kit said that these came with stainless 12-point fasteners. And while these fasteners definitely appear to be stainless, they're definitely not 12-point. So if you're ordering one of these kits, oops, just be aware of that. This is the hardware that's gonna come with it. Unless maybe they made a change since we got ours. So we've got screws or bolts if you prefer. I wonder if that guy's unsubscribed yet. And washers here. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and put Loctite on each of these. And then set them down once again, and we will shortly be ready to get this cover put on. All right, now, cover, gasket, everything looks like it's gonna line up nicely. Get our gasket aligned on the dowel pins here. Get our cover in place. These are very close tolerances, it seems like. So if this cover doesn't go on straight right from the beginning, I don't think it's gonna fit. There we go. Now we're good. Yeah, that looks awesome. I'm really liking this. All right, so anyway, let me grab the right driver here and we can start to get these installed. Okay. All right, so those snugged, grab a torque wrench. All right, torque spec on these is about 130 to 150, I believe, so I'm gonna go to 140, and I'm gonna go ahead and torque these in a nice cross pattern. Okay, well, I don't know about all of you, but I'm definitely digging how this is looking. So a couple more things we gotta do here. One is, before I forget, I wanna just double check and make sure that our clutch cable feels good, feels nice and tight, snug, not too tight. I already put the drain plug back in, so I wouldn't forget. Don't ask me if I've made that mistake before. And now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and take this drain plug in the side cover out so we can hopefully try out this feature and see how well it works in terms of filling the transmission and using this to get the level right. I am very excited about this. Now, obviously, this has the potential to make a mess, and obviously with your pipe in the way, this is maybe possible, maybe not, I guess depending on the pipe. Before those drawbacks of it turn you off, remember that the service interval for the transmission is fairly infrequent. you're gonna be doing a lot of other things and not changing this transmission fluid. So, you know, every 10,000 miles when you're gonna do your transmission fluid, if you wanna use this feature and have to take the pipe off, maybe you have another reason to take the pipe off. I don't know, maybe you're doing a tire and you're on a bagger and have to take the muffler off. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but taking the pipe off, particularly on a Softail, really not that big a deal. So I like it, that's all I'm saying. I guess you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can always just check with the dipstick, but I think it's kind of cool. So enough of that, let's try it out. So let me go and get some of our transmission fluid and we'll start pouring it in and see how this works. Oop. All right, there it is. Now, I probably went over the top because I started getting impatient and pouring faster at the end, which is exactly not what you want to do. But this is actually, I don't know if this is by design or just a coincidence. If you can see how this is dripping, it actually comes off this little first ledge here and then falls straight down. So I don't even think this would hit the frame. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let this go until it stops draining. There's obviously not a ton of fluid to come out of here, but as soon as this stops and we have the oil level correct, I'm gonna go ahead and put the plug in and we'll start getting this side buttoned up. Now, before we move on to anything else, getting the pipe put back on, obviously we gotta move on to our foot controls, but we are pretty much done with this. So like I said, I'm gonna let this drain and put the plug in and then we'll check in with the next step. All right, so our oil stopped draining, and once it did, just went ahead, wiped all this off, and put the little drain plug in here. So we should be all set with this. Now, there is one more step that we need to do, which I didn't mention in the beginning, which is we're gonna need to do a clutch adjustment now that we've changed this. So that means we're gonna have to go over to the other side, take the derby cover off, loosen up the clutch cable, loosen up the adjuster inside the derby cover, and adjust both of those. I'm going to wait and do that when we go over to the other side of the bike, and you'll kind of see me wrap that up over there. But for now, we'll stick on this side of the bike and we'll move a little bit forward and we'll start looking at the new thrashing parts that we got. So before we do that, let's take a look at what came off. So what we've got here, this is the obviously stock brake pedal assembly and foot peg mount. Like I mentioned, we already have a thrashing foot peg on here. So this is gonna come off real simple, just one screw to take out here. We'll pop this arm off, put the new thrashing arm on. And the other piece, which is maybe the more functional of the two, we're gonna replace is our linkage. Now, like I mentioned, this is not the stock linkage. If you still have the stock linkage on there, it's just gonna be a solid piece, non-adjustable, that's got kind of a curve in it, similar to this, although not quite as much of an offset. This is from, I believe, Green Brothers Design. I bought this pretty early on because I wasn't happy with where the brake pedal was, and if you've got one of these M8 Softails, you know the rear brake is basically useless in terms of stopping the bike. Help to slow you down, stabilize you a little bit, but in terms of stopping, not so good. So linkage, if you get a little more leverage on the pedal, it'll help. That was the idea behind this and behind the thrashing one. So I don't really like this one. Number one, I think it's a little bit over-engineered. I mean, all these pieces and how big it is and whatever, when you see the thrashing one, you kind of look at it and go, this doesn't really need to be like this. The other thing that I think was a huge miss in terms of the design of this is that both of these Heim joints are regular right-hand threads, which means that you can't just spin the linkage to open this thing up and in and out. You have to set the length first, sort of get it right, feel like where you like it, and then put it on. If you want to adjust it, you have to take it back off and keep going on and off. And as you'll see, you can't really take the pedal side of this off with it on the bike. So you take the whole thing on and off, on and off. Really a lot more aggravation than there should be, given that they could have probably designed it like thrashings or just made this, you know, reverse thread on one side and you'd be able to spin it. So in any event, that is why I'm replacing this. I'm hoping the thrashing one's gonna work a little bit better. So let's take a look at what we got here. So I'll start with their linkage. Sorry, losing hardware and stuff over here. So their linkage is straight, looks just like a shifter linkage. It comes with some spacers in order to sort of achieve that offset design that you need. So rather than putting that into the piece, they just give you some spacers and you just offset it, similar to how a shifter linkage would be, honestly. And theirs, and I'll sort of hold this, if you watch me here, you can spin this and you can see hopefully on the camera there that it'll move in and out because one is a right-hand thread and one's a left-hand thread. So that enables you to put this on and then just spin it and set the pedal height where you want it, and then you're good. You just tighten the jam nuts. So that's one piece. The next piece, I guess, is actually two pieces. One is the arm itself and the other is the pedal. So on the arm, you can put any pedal you want on it. This is their P54 Mini. I just thought this would be a good choice for a brake pedal. They've got a whole bunch of different, you can use their shifter tips. Any of those things will work on here. So that's that. And then here, very simple, clean design, like everything from Thrashin. I also think it's kind of cool they put a slider, sacrificial slider on here. This would be, in theory, depending on how your bike is set up and what you've got, this would be sitting like this on the bike. Presumably, this might be the low point of your bike on this side. So if you do rub somewhere, it'll be a piece that's changeable and a wearable part. So kind of cool. So in any event, let's start to get this stuff put together. So what I'm going to do, I'm trying to think the right order to do this in. I think the first easiest way to do this is going to be to actually just put this assembly back on first, and then we'll just take this bolt out here and take the brake arm off. It'll just be easier to hold it when it's on the bike, and all this has got to go back on anyway. So put that down for a second. I'm going to, my old bolts are a little cruddy, so I'm just going to run these through the wire wheel, grab the right socket, and we'll start getting this put on. All right, so ready to go ahead and put this on. You might notice that I've got the pipe on, which definitely you want to do if you had your pipe off for any reason when you're doing this. Pipe goes on first, then your footrest assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and then we'll take the brake lever off and we'll get our new parts put on. So just start by getting this started here. Okay. All right, so if you were starting this from scratch and didn't already have everything disconnected, you would obviously take the first linkage off here, which can be done with this on the bike, and then you would remove your brake pedal in order to get the other linkage off. We're still gonna remove our brake pedal, but that would be a step you'd have to do either way. So take a T27 socket. And then it should slide off. All right, so there's our brake pedal that we're replacing. And now we're gonna put our new brake pedal on, but we gotta put the linkage on first. So pedal is gonna go on this way, so our linkage is gonna go this way. So we're gonna take this, put the spacer between the heim joint and the pedal. I'm gonna put some Loctite on here. I don't think I have the socket I need for this. All right, so I'm gonna get that hand tight, and now I will tighten it the rest of the way with the ratchet. Okay. All right, so we've got linkage connected to brake arm, ready to go back on. Now I'm gonna get, you've got a bronze bushing here. rides on this steel shaft. I'm just gonna get a little bit of grease on my finger and just lubricate that. Because why not? All right, so let's slide this on. All right, and there is a little ARP bolt, the new black washer that comes with the brake arm. So just put a little bit of Loctite on that. Grab the right wrench for it. And we'll go ahead and get that attached. All right. So next step, I'm gonna grab the last bolt and spacer. And I'm gonna get these lined up. Bolt, then spacer, Loctite. And we'll get this put in. All right. So, hope you can see now. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit for you. All right, so you've got that in place. And so as I spin this, hopefully you can see how the brake arm just moves. So obviously we still have to put a pedal on here. So let me grab that pedal and the correct wrench again. Loctite. All right. So, in truth, I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit to see exactly where I like it. Once you get kind of the height figured out, you can kind of determine the angle of the pedal a little bit too. I'm really not sure where I want it, to be totally honest with you. This is all gonna be a little bit of an experiment, but like I mentioned, the whole point is just, you don't like it where it is, just turn it and adjust it. So I'm gonna leave it just like this for the moment. And the last step of this would be, although like I said, I'm not gonna do it now, would be just to tighten these jam nuts down here. And then I'll lock this in place. So we're gonna call this done-ish for now until I can get a chance to sit on it and kind of play with it a little bit. So I can also give you a chance, as long as we're here, to kind of take a look at the side cover here. So Obviously, you can definitely see the, new details in it and all of that. It's not quite as visible with the pipe there, but definitely in my case, this oil level plug would be not even close to accessible with that pipe there. So pipe would definitely have to come off to use that. But like I said, no one says you have to use it. You can always do your transmission the old-fashioned way with the dipstick and just read the level there. So no big deal. But I dig it. So I think both these things I'm going to call a win for this side. And let's take a walk over to the left side of the bike, and we'll get the other new parts put on, get the clutch adjusted, and we'll see how it goes. All right, let's go ahead and get this wrapped up. So before we move on to our shifter arm, like I said, we're going to get this clutch adjusted. So I've got our inside adjuster loosened up. I've got the clutch cable fully collapsed. So just real quick, gotta find the bottom of this so we sort of get it seated. I like to do it a couple times to make sure you found the true bottom. It's not like, getting caught up on a thread or something like that. So do that. I like to go between 1/4 and 1/2 a turn. It's kind of my sweet spot. So set right there. All right, so we got that, and now what I want to do is do just an initial adjustment on the cable. Obviously, the way I like to do the final adjustment on this, I won't do the lock nut yet, is I like to get the bike started once we're done with everything and feel where the release point is and adjust based on that. Feels like a pretty good spot to start. Still got play here. A little bit off. All right, so that's our clutch. I'll go ahead and get this derby cover back on momentarily, but in the meantime, before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about our new parts and get these put on. So this side's gonna be real simple, and like I said, really just doing this to kind of match what we did on the other side. Probably not any functional benefit to any of this, but we've got Thrashin's shifter arm, which is the same size as the stock one. It's not like the baggers where you can get like a short one, kind of are what they are on these. And then just to change things up a little bit, we already actually have a Thrashin shifter peg on here. This was gold once upon a time. It's kind of faded a little bit, and I don't know. I just don't love the way it looks, but I do like Thrashin's new-ish, I guess I should say, shifter peg that's got flats on the top and the bottom. So we're gonna use this peg in conjunction with this arm. And I think that'll pair nicely with what we did on the other side. So I actually already went ahead and loosened this up. So just gotta take this bolt out of here. Slide our shifter arm off. Now, you can kind of see here, these arms are similar, but not exactly the same. So if you look at, and what I'm trying to illustrate here is kind of where how the mount would be clocked on the old one and the new one. It's not gonna put the arm in the same place. So what that means is, we're gonna have to put this on, and if I can get it in a place that I like, then we'll just, pick that and that'll be done. If not, we'll get it close and then we'll make the final adjustment to the height using the shifter linkage. So just for the sake of comparison, I just kind of want to see, basically had that arm flat. So let's see if we can do that with this one in the current orientation. Okay. That looks and feels pretty good. All right, I'm not gonna put Loctite on here because we've got a lock nut that comes with it, so let me just grab the right hardware for this. Okay. So now with our arm in place, and I'll get, like again, kind of on the other side, I'm gonna have to check this and sit on it, and if I need to adjust the linkage to move this up or down, I will. It looks like it might be a little high for my personal taste, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it. So now we've just got a cap head screw. It's gonna go in here. We've just gotta get the driver for this, put a little Loctite on here, and we'll be good to go. Right. Feels like it should be pretty good. All right, so I didn't make this exactly flat. I kind of tilted it back a little bit, sort of think about the angle your foot is at. There should be a little bit of a slant. The idea is to kind of get these flats parallel to your foot. I think that's the best idea. So anyway, that said, pretty much done here. Like I said, that was gonna be pretty fast. Let's go ahead and put this derby cover on and we'll be good to go. All right, so with the snug, we'll get them torqued. And in case, I don't know, you never noticed, these fasteners are much, much smaller than those on any other derby cover. All the other ones use 1/4-20 fasteners. These are smaller than that. So if you torque these to 120 foot-pounds, you're gonna break them. Torque spec is much lower, 30 to 40 inch-pounds, something like that. All right, so our derby cover on, and we're good to go. So let's get this, I'll get my final adjustments done, we'll get the bike on the ground, we'll take a look. All right, well, we got things wrapped up and ready to roll. That's gonna do it for this video. I'm about to head out to Laconia. Probably won't have time to edit this video before we leave tomorrow morning, but I guess I'll get it done when I get back, and you know, you'll hopefully know we went. Maybe you'll see us there, I don't know. Quick recap, we did a couple parts in the clutch here. If you're interested in seeing any of that stuff or any of the thrashing stuff, you can check out the links below in the description. We got our new brake pedal, brake linkage, and a couple little dress-up parts, let's call them, on this side. So nothing major this time around, just a couple cool new parts that maybe you haven't seen yet that wanted to give you a chance to check out. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.